Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone. My name is Kathy. We have received some inquiries regarding the public records lawsuit that was filed by EWU Media LLC versus the City of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department. This case has to do with several public records requests that EWU Media alleges that were submitted. First, an informal request, as they call it, to the Moscow Police Department, and then requests to the City of Moscow relative to obtaining public records concerning the investigation into the crimes at 1122 King Road and the 4 students, all University of Idaho students who were so tragically and catastrophically lost at 1122 King Road in Moscow, northern Idaho, November 13th, 2022. Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan. According to EWU filings thus far, they are alleging that the City of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department violated the Idaho Public Records Act by either overly redacting, including overly blurring information that was submitted in response to the public records request, or denying them outright. The City of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department have not yet been heard from. There is a scheduling order that the judicial officer who is overseeing this case, Judge Megan E. Marshall, issued back on March 13th that set up a schedule of deadlines when certain filings were to have been submitted to the court for consideration by filing on the docket in Latah County District Court. And this is case number C as in Charlie, V as in Victor, 29260162. Leading up to a hearing, EWU's petition. They're asking for such relief as having the court order the defendants to turn over the records that they've asked for, order them to state with specificity certain reasons that they have given for non-disclosure, and also, if appropriate, order them to reimburse EWU for their attorney's fees and costs associated with the case. Now, what bears mentioning is that there are interveners who were allowed to intervene in the case. These are non-parties. That's what an intervener is, but who has successfully persuaded the court that even though they're not a plaintiff or a petitioner, that would be EWU Media, they're not a defendant or respondent, that would be the City of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department, but they have a right to be heard, an interest in this proceeding. The court agreed. 4 interveners. They are Karen Laramie, Madison May Mogan's mother, Stacy Chapin, Ethan Chapin's mother, James Chapin, father of Ethan Chapin, and also Maisie Chapin, sister of Ethan Chapin. These are the 4 parties who were plaintiffs in an associated case, and that is Laramie et al. Versus City of Moscow, that Judge Marshall also presided over last year, and that resulted in a filing, actually 2 of them, October 1st, 2025, an injunction, a restraining order against the city from releasing certain items from their investigatory files, particularly photographs, for example, of the students. In looking at the docket today, and it is the 15th of April, 2026, the last few items that were filed are as follows. The plaintiffs, the petitioners, filed a legal brief in support of their petition for disclosure of public records. On March 30th, 2026, we have had some content previously released on this Indie Zone podcast and on our YouTube channel going over the petitioner's brief. At the same time, March 30th, there was a declaration. This is evidence of Amy James in further support of the petition for disclosure of public records. Filed March 30th, 2026. We have gone over parts of this declaration and certain exhibits to it that included, for example, the prior public records request and responses. And then finally, there was a request for the court to take judicial notice, March 30th, 2026. What is this? The petitioner is asking the court to take official notice of another case, and that was Laramie et al. Versus City of Moscow, that resulted in the aforementioned restraining order that Judge Marshall entered. The petitioners found that it was important that the court officially, and in the context of this case, take judicial notice of the prior case in front of her. Those are the last three things that have been filed. There's nothing yet from the defense. They, of course, have an opportunity to be heard. We're expecting a very, very assertive response in opposition to the petitioner's brief. We've also not seen a response from the interveners. They are all represented by the same attorney who represented them in Laramie et al. In 2025. So it's very possible that if and when there's a response from the interveners, that it will be one response from all of the interveners through the one attorney that's representing them. Everything is leading up to the showdown, if you will, oral argument on the case that's set before Judge Marshall May 18th, 2026. Currently scheduled 10:30 a.m. It's via Zoom. There still has not been confirming information as to whether or not this is going to be transmitted live to the public, as the hearing last year that Judge Marshall presided over was transmitted to the public. That happened in August leading up to the order of October 1st. We're going to continue to monitor this situation and advise you as further developments occur. Until next time, this is Kathy. Thank you very much for joining us here today.